Okay, welcome to the second part of Module 2-2, where we're going to continue looking at some Python basics. In this video, we're going to review data structures in Python, and this is one thing that's very important because you're just going to always see these various data structures. So lists, dictionaries, sets, and tuples, you're not going to get away from those in Python, especially lists and dictionaries. I tend to see sets and tuples less often, but you still might encounter them, so we're going to review those as well. Now, each of these data structures has unique properties that will make them better for holding certain data over other types of data. So we'll review some of that as we go as well. So the first thing to look at, probably the most common data structure in Python, would be lists. So lists are ordered and changeable collections that will allow duplicate members. So you can have the same value twice in a list. So an example here would be a list of patient temperatures that you collect over time. And so you can see we start a list by just using these square brackets here. And again, you can have duplicate members in a list. That's okay. But lists are ordered and you can change them. So those are the unique properties of lists. Tuples. So tuples are ordered, but they are unchangeable or non-mutable, and they allow duplicate members as well. So for example, using a tuple to represent a patient's name and ID, this would be an example of that. So a patient record. Now tuples look a little bit different, so you're going to use parentheses instead of square brackets to make a tuple. Sets. So sets, we're going to use these curly braces, and those are unordered and unindexed collections, and there are no duplicate members. So if you want a set of unique values, so unique patient IDs, a set would be a good choice for something like that since there are no duplicate members. Next, we'll look at dictionaries. So dictionaries are good for more complex data because they hold a little bit more data than all the other data structures we've looked at so far. And so dictionaries are based on these key value pairs. So you have a key, for example, a name, and then the value associated with that. So John Doe here, or any other name. Age, so that would be the key, and then the value is going to be the age of the patient. And conditions here would be the key, and so you can have multiple values per key. So hypertension and asthma would be examples of the values for the conditions key. Now these are also going to be created using these curly braces. However, you're going to need, not if you just put one value in here, then you're essentially just creating sets, but you're going to need the key and then a colon here with a value and then a comma. And so that's how you would create that more complex data structure of a dictionary. Now we're going to briefly review just accessing elements of these data structures. And for this, you're going to put the name of whatever that data structure is. So if you'll go back up here and look at the list, we use temperatures. So we're going to use this temperatures list and see if we can access some of these elements. Now lists are zero index. That means the first element is 0, and then the second element is going to be 1, the third element is going to be 2, and so on. And so that can be a little bit tricky. Just remember the first item in a list is actually the 0th item, and then you would go from there. And so to access the first item or the 0 index item in temperatures, you just use these square brackets with a 0, and that would give us 98.6. So let's just make sure that was the first temperature value, and it was 98.6. And if you want to look at the last value, so we'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Oh, excuse me, that would be the fourth item, not the last item. So that's 98.7. I did not think there was a extra item in there, but so 98.7 would be the fourth item in the list. So you can just add 1 to this since it's a 0 index, and that will grab that particular item for you. Now, if you want to grab multiple items, so a slice as it's called, so we're going to slice the list, we're going to need to use this colon here. Now the first part, so to the left of the column, that's going to be inclusive, and so it's going to take whatever that item would be. So just assume that's square brackets just with the number 1, it's going to grab that, and then everything up to the fourth here. So that would be the fifth item or the last item. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But importantly with a slice, while this part is going to be inclusive, this is going to be exclusive at the end. So this last item here that it's going to grab will not be shown in that. So it's going to stop here at 98.7. So that 1:4 is going to grab items 1, 2, and 3. So that should be 0, 1, 2, 3. So 99.1, 100.4, and 98.7. So let's see this in action. All right, so that slice gave us these 3 values. And that's how you access items in a list. Tuples are going to be much the same since those are ordered. We can get John Doe, which was the first part of that patient record. And if we want the next item, you can just use that 1. So tuples, those are 0 indexed as well. And so that's kind of similar to the list in accessing those items. And those are ordered, so we can use their index. But sets are unordered, so we cannot use the index like you've been seeing to get those elements. But you can use a for loop, which we've discussed, to iterate through items in a set. So if you'll remember the for loop structure here, so for patient ID, in patient IDs. So remember this patient ID, that can really be anything, but we're just going to call it, you know what it is, the patient ID here. In the patient IDs set, just go ahead and print it. So not a complex for loop here, but just go ahead and print all of those so you can iterate through that set. You can also check for membership. So we haven't reviewed if else statements yet, but essentially you can just check if a particular value is in the set. And so if this value A123 is in patient IDs, print A123 is in the set, but if it's not, or else, print A123 is not in the set. And so since it is in the set, we checked for membership, and we got the print statement that it is in the set. If you did want to really use indexing for a set, you could convert it to a list first and then index it. So this is how you would do that. So we have the patient IDs list. So this would be a new list that's not created yet. And we're going to use this thing called type conversion, which we'll review later, but it converts whatever's in here into a list. And so this set is now going to be a list. So patient IDs list is essentially this contains the same data as the patient IDs set, but now it's a list. And so we can use indexing. So with these square brackets to get the first element of that list. So the A123. But actually, I forgot to mention, sets are going to be unordered, and so it might not be A123. Yeah, so it didn't grab it. So if this was ordered, it would have been the A123, but since sets are not ordered, they're unordered, this order is not going to maintain. So it could be switched around there. And so that's why we see the A79 first. Now, once it's in a list, it's going to stay ordered, but while it was in that set, it is unordered. And finally, let's look at dictionaries, the complex data structure here. And so you can access elements by using the keys. And so the dictionary name, if we go back up here, was patient info. And so that was our dictionary. And so we had the keys, name, age, and conditions. So name, age, and conditions. And we're just going to set some new variables here to contain that. And so name is going to equal the dictionary name, so patient info and the name. And then the age is going to equal the dictionary patient info plus the age. And then remember there were multiple conditions here, so there should be 2 conditions here. And then we're just going to print these all these values out. Okay, patient info is not defined. All right, so this happens sometimes. You run into some errors with Python, so let's fix it. So patient info is not defined. Let's see what the name is. That means there's probably a issue with the name, or that I didn't actually run this. And so that's going to be the problem. So if I don't run this cell, Python does not know that patient info is a dictionary. So now that I run this cell, I can go back and do this code, and it should work this time, now that we've defined that. So John Doe was the name, patient's age was 30, and we have the 2 conditions here, hypertension and asthma. Now you can access all of the elements in the dictionary by using the items method. So for key value, so this is another for loop in the dictionary patient info. Let's use the item method and then print out what those are. So that's just another way to do this. And if an element in a dictionary is a collection, such as a list of conditions, hypertension and asthma in this case, you can access individual elements using the indexing. So this is a pretty cool trick here. So you can just use indexing to grab the first one. So in this case, it would be hypertension. So patient info conditions, but we just want that first condition. And so let's print that, and it should just give us hypertension. There we go. All right, that's it for data structures in Python, and I will see you in Module 2.3 next.